The twin suns of four burned orange and gold as they sank behind the western mountains, wiped the sweat from her forehead and looked across the grain fields that stretched to the horizon. The stalks swayed in the evening wind like a golden ocean. This was her home. This was her whole world. She was 19 years old and had never left this planet. She had never wanted to. While other young people dreamed of starships and distant galaxies, dreamed of good harvests and clear skies, her hands were rough from work. Her skin was dark from the suns. She wore simple clothes that were patched in many places. She was nobody special, and she liked it that way. "Dinner is ready," her grandmother's voice carried across the field. Gathered her tools and walked toward the old farmhouse. The building had stood for 3 generations. Her great-grandfather had built it when humans first came to this planet. The walls were made of local stone, and the roof was covered with solar panels that powered their simple life. Inside, her grandmother was setting the table. She was 73 years old but still strong. Her hair was completely white, and her face was full of wrinkles, but her eyes were sharp and bright. She had raised and her younger brother alone after their parents died in a shuttle accident 8 years ago. "Where is?" asked. "Checking the water pumps again. That boy worries too much about machines." Smiled. Her 16-year-old brother loved technology the way she loved the land. He spent his free time fixing old equipment and reading about starships. He wanted to leave for someday and see the galaxy. Hoped he would get that chance. The door opened and came in, grease on his hands and frustration on his face. "The secondary pump is dying. We need new parts." "We will manage," said calmly. "We always do. Now wash your hands and eat." They sat together and shared a simple meal of grain porridge, vegetables from their garden and dried fish from the market. They talked about small things: the weather, the crops, the neighbor's new baby. It was an ordinary evening like 1,000 evenings before it. After dinner, went outside to check on the animals. They kept a small herd of milk goats and some chickens. As she approached the barn, the goats came to her immediately, pressing their heads against her hands. They always did this. Animals had always loved her. "You are strange with animals," had said once. "They act like you are their mother." Did not understand it herself. When she was near animals, she could almost feel what they felt. When a goat was sick, she knew before any signs appeared. When the chickens were scared, she could calm them with a touch. Her grandmother said it was a gift, something that ran in their family from ancient times. Thought it was just good instincts. She was closing the barn door when she felt it. A wave of fear and pain hit her mind like a physical blow. She stumbled and grabbed the door frame. The goats screamed and ran to the far corner of their pen. The chickens went wild in their coop. "What?" he whispered. Then she saw it in the sky. A streak of light, falling fast, burning through the atmosphere. It was coming down in the northern field. She heard the impact before she saw the explosion of dirt and grain stalks. The ground shook under her feet. Ran out of the house. What was that? A meteor. "Stay here," said. She was already walking toward the crash site. "Wait, it could be dangerous." But she could not stop. Something was pulling her forward. The feeling of pain in her mind was growing stronger. Something out there was hurt. Something was dying. And somehow, impossibly, it was calling to her. She ran through the grain fields, stalks whipping against her legs. The twin moons had risen, casting pale light across the land. She could see a crater ahead, smoke rising from it. When she reached the edge, she stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. The creature in the crater was like nothing she had ever seen. It was about the size of a horse, but it looked nothing like any animal from Earth or Four. Its body was covered in scales that seemed to be made of frozen light, shifting between silver and deep blue. It had 4 legs, 2 wings, and a long tail. Its head was elegant and strange, with 4 eyes that glowed like dying stars. Knew what it was. Everyone in the galaxy knew about star beasts. They had appeared 50 years ago, emerging from somewhere beyond known space. They attacked human colonies without warning or mercy. They could survive in the vacuum of space. They could tear through starship armor like paper. The galactic military had been fighting them ever since, and humanity was slowly losing. Star beasts were monsters, killers. They had no thoughts, no feelings, only hunger and rage. That was what everyone said. But the creature in front of was clearly young, and it was clearly wounded. One of its wings was shattered. Dark fluid that might be blood leaked from wounds across its body. It raised its head weakly as approached, and she braced herself for an attack. The attack never came. Instead, the creature made a sound. It was soft and broken, like a child crying in pain. And in its mind, she heard something that was not quite words but was clearly meaning. Help, please, hurt, scared, help. Stood frozen. This was impossible. Star beasts could not think. They could not communicate. They were just animals, dangerous animals that needed to be destroyed for humanity's survival. But she could feel its emotions as clearly as she felt her own. Fear, pain, loneliness. This creature was terrified and dying and alone, and it had crashed on her planet by accident or fate. Slowly climbed down into the crater. The creature watched her with its 4 glowing eyes. It could have killed her easily, even wounded. She knew that. But she also knew, in a way she could not explain, that it would not hurt her. She knelt beside it and placed her hand on its head. The scales were cold and smooth, like touching ice that did not melt. The creature shuddered and pressed against her palm. Help, please. I do not know how, whispered. I do not know what you need. But her hands were already moving, examining the wounds, feeling the broken wing. Something old was waking up inside her, something that had slept in her blood for generations. She did not understand it, but she trusted it. I will try, she said. I will help you. Behind her she heard its voice, high with fear. Get away from it, that is a star beast. He is hurt, said without turning around. He is just a child and he is hurt. It is a monster. We need to call the authorities. Finally looked at her brother. Her eyes were calm and certain in a way that surprised them both. If we call anyone, they will kill him. Look at him. Does he look like a monster to you? Looked at the creature. It had curled its broken body around its legs and was making that soft crying sound. Its 4 eyes were fixed on her face with something that looked like hope. This is crazy, said. Yes, agreed. Help me carry him to the barn. They worked through the night. Grandmother said nothing when they brought the creature inside, just looked at it with an expression could not read. Then she went to get blankets and water. By dawn, the creature was stable. Its wounds were cleaned and wrapped. It slept in a nest of old blankets, its breathing slow and steady. Sat beside it, exhausted but unable to leave. She did not understand what was happening or what it meant. She only knew that her simple life had changed forever. Outside, the twin suns rose over the grain fields. A new day was beginning, and somewhere in orbit above 4, military sensors detected the crash site and began transmitting alerts to Galactic Command. The soldiers would come soon. But for now, in the quiet of the barn, a farm girl and a star beast rested together, and something ancient and wonderful began to wake. 3 weeks passed, and the creature grew stronger each day. Named him, which meant star in the old language of Earth. At first, he could barely lift his head. Now he could walk around the barn, and his broken wing was slowly healing. The scales on his body had grown brighter, shifting through colors like a living rainbow when he was happy. She spent every free moment with him. When she was working in the fields, she could feel his presence in the back of her mind, a warm spot of awareness that never went away. When she returned to the barn each evening, he would greet her with that soft humming sound that meant joy. They were learning to communicate. It was not like talking, could not speak human words and could not make the sounds he made, but she could receive images from his mind, pictures and feelings that told stories better than words ever could. And slowly, She learned to send her own thoughts back to him. "Show me where you came from," she asked one night, sitting beside him in the moonlit barn. Closed his 4 eyes and concentrated. Then the visions began. Saw a universe of impossible beauty, a dimension filled with light that moved like water, where creatures like swam through currents of pure energy. There were millions of them, maybe billions, living in harmony in this realm of wonder. They were ancient beings, older than humanity, older than Earth itself. Then she saw the disaster. Something went wrong. The dimension began to collapse, folding in on itself like a dying star. The star beasts fled through tears in reality, escaping into the cold darkness of normal space. But this universe was wrong for them. The vacuum hurt their skin. The silence hurt their minds. They could eat asteroids and absorb radiation, but it was like eating sand when you needed water. They were refugees. They were dying, and they had been searching for help. "You have been trying to communicate," whispered, tears running down her face. "All this time you were asking for help." Sent an image of human ships firing on star beast families, mothers trying to protect their young, children dying in the cold of space. The star beasts had approached humans again and again, trying to make contact, but humans could not hear them. To humans, the star beasts' attempts at communication sounded like attacks. "Why can I hear you?" asked. The answer came in fragments, old memories that had inherited from his elders. Long ago, before humans left Earth, before they built ships and conquered the stars, they had a gift. They could speak with all living things. This ability was written in their blood, in their genes, passed down through generations. But when humanity became a spacefaring species, their leaders decided this gift was dangerous. They could not control a population that could communicate with every alien species they met, so they used genetic treatments to suppress the ability. Within a few generations, it was forgotten. But some bloodlines still carried the dormant gene. In most people, it stayed sleeping forever. In rare individuals, it could wake. Understood now. Her connection with animals, the way she could sense their feelings, it was all part of this ancient gift. She was not special because of anything she had done. She was special because of who she was born to be. Grandmother knows, realized. She has always known. She found in the kitchen that night, sitting alone with a cup of tea. The old woman did not look surprised when sat across from her. "You could hear them too," said, "when you were young." Nodded slowly. "Not as strongly as you. The gift grows stronger with each generation that carries it. My mother heard whispers. I heard fragments. You hear everything." "Why did you never tell me?" "What could I tell you? That you carry an ability that the galaxy tried to destroy. That if the wrong people found out, they would take you away and use you as a weapon or a laboratory subject." Eyes were hard. "I hoped you would live a normal life. I hoped the gift would stay quiet in you." "But the star beasts." "I know. I have seen the news for 50 years. I suspected what they really were." His voice was heavy with guilt. "But I was afraid. I am old and weak. I could not protect you from the military, from the government, from everyone who would want to control you." "You are not weak," said, taking her grandmother's hand. "You kept our family alive. You raised us with love. That is not weakness." Squeezed her hand and said nothing, but there were tears in her old eyes. The next morning the soldiers came. Was in the grain field when she saw the military shuttle land near the farmhouse. 5 soldiers in armor stepped out, led by an officer with a hard face and cold eyes. She could see standing on the porch, looking scared. She walked toward them, her heart pounding but her steps steady. "I am captain of the Galactic military," the officer said as she approached. 3 weeks ago, our sensors detected a star beast impact in this area. We are here to investigate." "You are wrong," said quickly. "It was a meteor. We saw it fall, just a rock." Captain looked at him with no expression. "Our analysis of the impact crater says differently. The radiation signature is consistent with star beast biology." He turned to, You are the owner of this farm. My grandmother is. I am her granddaughter. We will need to search your property. Could feels fear in the barn. He was awake, aware of the danger. She sent calming thoughts to him, telling him to stay quiet and hidden. But she knew the soldiers would find him. There was nowhere to hide a creature his size. Captain, she said, if there was a star beast here, what would you do? Eliminate it. Star beasts are hostile alien entities. Our standing orders are to destroy them on sight. Even a wounded one, even a child. His eyes narrowed. There is no such thing as a star beast child. They have no families, no society. They are animals. What if you are wrong? Before could answer, one of his soldiers shouted, Sir, contact, multiple signatures descending from orbit. Everyone looked up. 3 shapes were falling from the sky, growing larger every second. They were star beasts, adult ones, each one the size of a house. Their scales burned with colors that hurt to look at, and their eyes blazed like small suns. The soldiers raised their weapons, could feel their terror through her gift, sharp and bitter. Hold fire, ordered, but his voice was shaking. The 3 star beasts landed in the grain field, crushing the crops under their massive bodies. They were beautiful and terrifying, ancient creatures from beyond the edge of the universe. Any one of them could destroy the soldiers in seconds. They did not attack. Instead, they walked slowly toward. She could feel their minds touching hers, vast and deep, filled with grief and hope and desperate longing. They had felt distress signal. They had come to save their child. And they had found something else. They had found her. Stood still as the largest star beast approached her. It was close enough to touch now, its breath warm on her face, its 4 eyes looking into hers. She could hear its voice in her mind, old and wise and infinitely sad. Speaker, bridge, the one who hears, we have searched so long. Then the star beast did something that no human had ever seen. Something that would be recorded by the soldiers' helmet cameras and transmitted to every corner of the galaxy. It lowered its great head to the ground. It folded its legs beneath its body, and it knelt before her. The other 2 star beasts did the same. Stood alone in the field, a small figure in dirty farm clothes, while 3 of the most dangerous creatures in the known universe bowed at her feet. Captain lowered his weapon. His face was pale. What is happening? They are not monsters, said quietly. They never were. They are refugees, and they have been trying to talk to us for 50 years. She looked at with eyes that seemed much older than 19, and I am the first person who could hear them. In the barn, felt his family's presence and cried out with joy. The 3 adult star beasts raised their heads and sang back, a sound that shook the air and made the soldiers weep without knowing why. Everything had changed. Nothing could be the same again. And the simple farm girl stood at the center of it all, wondering what the galaxy would do now that the truth was finally revealed. The video spread across the galaxy in hours. A farm girl, 3 star beasts kneeling, the words she spoke to the soldiers. Within a day's face was on every news screen, every information network, every corner of human civilization. People called her the speaker, the bridge, the prophet. Some called her a traitor to humanity. Some called her a savior. Everyone wanted her. The galactic military wanted her as a strategic asset. If she could control the star beasts, she could end the war. Or she could command them to fight for humanity. The generals sent message after message, demanding that she come to the capital. Religious groups declared her a sign from the heavens. The Children of the Stars, a sect that had always believed aliens were divine messengers, sent ships full of pilgrims to 4. They wanted to worship her. They wanted her to lead them. Corporations saw money. The woman who could communicate with star beasts could negotiate for access to resources in star beast territory, mining rights in nebulae that no human ship could safely enter, technology that the star beasts might share. The offers came daily, each one larger than the last. refused them all. "I am not a weapon," she told the military's representatives. "I am not a prophet," she told the religious pilgrims. "I am not for sale," she told the corporate agents. She stayed on the farm. She tended her crops. She cared for who was almost fully healed now. The 3 adult star beasts whom she had named and Sarai stayed in orbit above 4, waiting patiently. They understood that needed time. They had waited 50 years. They could wait a little longer. Captain did not leave with the other soldiers. He had sent his report to command, and his superiors had ordered him to bring to the capital by any means necessary. He had refused. Now he was suspended from duty, waiting for a court-martial that might never come because no one knew what to do with any of this. "Why did you stay?" asked him one evening. They were sitting on the porch, watching the sun set, was playing in the field, chasing insects with awkward jumps that made him look more like a puppy than a cosmic entity. "I do not know," admitted. He was a tall man with short gray hair, 42 years old, career military since he was 18. "I have fought star beasts for 20 years. I have lost friends to them. Good soldiers. I hated them. And now—" He was quiet for a long moment. "Now I do not know what to feel. If what you say is true, if they were just trying to communicate, then everything I did, every battle I fought—" He could not finish. "You did not know," said gently. "No one knew. That does not make it better." Had no answer for that. There was no answer. The truth was a weight that the whole galaxy would have to carry together. As days passed, grew stronger in her gift. With help, she learned to extend her awareness beyond the planet. She could feel the star beasts now, thousands of them scattered across the dark spaces between galaxies. They were waiting in a great migration fleet, hiding from human ships, slowly starving. She felt their pain like a constant ache in her heart. Mothers watching their children grow weak. Elders remembering their lost dimension with grief that had no words. Young ones who had never known any home except cold space and constant fear. They were dying, all of them slowly dying, and they had placed all their hope in her. "I do not know how to help them," she told one night. "I am just one person. I cannot change the galaxy." Sent her an image in response. It was a memory from the old dimension before the collapse. A single creature, small and young, who had discovered a new current of energy that fed thousands. Great things could begin with small actions. Change could start with one voice. "You believe in me," said. The feeling that came back was warm and certain. Of course he believed in her. She had saved his life when she had no reason to. She had stood between him and soldiers who wanted to kill him. She had shown him that humans could be kind, could be brave, could be good. If one human could be like her, maybe others could learn. Made a decision. She would not go to the capital as a prisoner or a tool, but she would go as a voice. She would speak for the star beasts to anyone who would listen. She would tell their story until the galaxy understood. She told her family first. Grandmother listened without expression, then nodded. "I knew this day would come. You cannot hide from your fate, child. You can only meet it with courage." Was harder to convince. "You cannot trust these people. The military, the politicians, they will use you and throw you away." "Maybe," said, "but if I do nothing, the star beasts will keep dying. Their children will keep starving, and humanity will keep fighting a war that does not need to happen." She put her hand on her brother's shoulder. "I have to try, you understand." He understood. He hated it, but he understood. He was young, but he knew what duty looked like when it stood in front of you. Captain offered to escort her. He still had contacts in the military, people who might listen, and his presence might protect her from those who wanted to take her by force. They left 4 on a civilian transport, with Hidden in the cargo hold and the 3 adult star beasts following at a safe distance. The journey to the capital took 8 days. During that time, practiced her gift, reaching out to distant star beasts, learning their histories, their hopes, their sorrows. She learned that they had a name for themselves in their own language. It translated roughly as those who swim between stars. They had existed for millions of years, peaceful travelers through dimensions, never harming any species they met. Violence was against their nature. Even now, after 50 years of being hunted by humans, they refused to kill unless they had no other choice. She learned that the young ones were dying fastest. They needed a specific kind of energy to grow, energy that did not exist in this universe. Without it, they faded like flowers without sunlight. Hundreds had died already. Thousands more would follow. She learned that the star beasts had found something in this universe that might save them. A nebula at the edge of the galaxy, filled with the right kind of radiation. If they could reach it, if they could settle there in peace, they could survive. They could rebuild. But the nebula was in human territory, and humans had never let them pass. When arrived at the capital, the whole world was watching. News drones surrounded her ship. Crowds filled the spaceport. Some cheered for her. Some screamed that she was a traitor, a beast lover, a danger to humanity. She walked through them all with her head high, at her side, swarm presence in her mind. She was scared, more scared than she had ever been in her life. But she had made a promise to creatures who had no one else to speak for them. She would not let them down. The Galactic Council was waiting for her. Presidents and generals and corporate leaders, the most powerful people in human civilization, all gathered to hear what a farm girl had to say. Stood before them, small and plain in her simple clothes, and she told them the truth. She showed them memories from his mind projected onto screens so everyone could see. The beauty of the lost dimension, the horror of its collapse, the desperate search for a new home, the confusion and pain when humans attacked instead of helping. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Some faces showed shock, some showed doubt, some showed anger. But some, just a few, showed something that looked like understanding. It was a beginning, just a small one, but it was enough. Had found her voice. Now she had to make the galaxy listen. For 2 months, fought a different kind of war. She spoke to councils and committees. She gave interviews to news networks. She met with scientists who wanted to study her gift and diplomats who wanted to use it. Day after day, she told the same story, showed the same memories, asked the same question. Why must we fight when we could talk? Some people listened. The evidence was hard to deny. Could demonstrate her connection with in front of any audience, showing them real-time communication with an alien species. Scientists confirmed that the star beasts had complex thought patterns, emotional responses, social structures. They were not mindless animals. They never had been. Public opinion began to shift. Protests erupted across the galaxy, people demanding an end to the war. A peace movement grew around. Millions of humans who believed that 50 years of killing had been a tragic mistake. But not everyone wanted peace. Admiral had built his entire career on fighting star beasts. He was 70 years old, a hero of a dozen battles, the most decorated officer in galactic military history. To him, was not a bridge between species. She was a threat to everything he had dedicated his life to. He spoke against her in every council meeting. He called her a naive child, a puppet of the enemy, a danger to human survival. He reminded people of every colony the star beasts had destroyed, every ship they had torn apart, every soldier they had killed. He showed footage of attacks, played recordings of dying crews screaming for help. They are monsters, he said again and again. They have always been monsters. This girl is either deceived or complicit. Either way, she will lead humanity to destruction. The Galactic Council was divided. Half wanted to negotiate with the star beasts. Half wanted to continue the war. They argued for weeks while nothing changed, while more star beast children died in the cold darkness of space. Then made his move. He had loyal officers throughout the fleet, men and women who shared his hatred of the star beasts. In secret, he gathered them. He assembled a strike force of 50 warships, armed with the most powerful weapons humanity had ever built, and he gave them orders that no council had authorized. Destroy the Star Beast migration fleet. End the alien threat forever. Felt it happen in the middle of the night. She woke screaming, overwhelmed by a wave of terror that was not her own. Thousands of star beasts crying out in fear and confusion, ships attacking them without warning, energy weapons burning through their scales, mothers trying to shield their young with their own bodies. No, she gasped. No, no, no. She reached out with her gift, stretching further than she ever had before. She found and Sarai, the 3 adults who had stayed near the capital. They were already moving, racing toward the battle, but they would never arrive in time. She found who had woken from a sound sleep, his mind filled with the echoes of his people's pain. And she found the star beasts in the migration fleet, millions of them, dying under human weapons, and she felt every death like a wound in her own soul. "I have to stop this," she said. Captain was already at her door. He had received reports from his contacts in the fleet. His face was gray. "Has gone insane. The council did not approve this, but by the time they can respond, it will be over. Take me there. The battle is 3 days away at full speed. We cannot. Take me there." They found a ship, called in every favor he had, requisitioned a fast courier vessel, pushed its engines past their limits. 3 days became 2 days. 2 days became 36 hours. It was not fast enough. Sat in the passenger cabin, her eyes closed, her mind stretched across the stars. She could feel the battle in real time, every blast of energy, every death, every cry of pain. The star beasts were not fighting back. Even now, even as they died, they refused to kill humans. They remembered its message of peace. They held on to hope even as that hope killed them. When the ship finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the scene before them was horror. The migration fleet was a cloud of bodies, adult star beasts floating dead in space, their scales dark, their eyes empty. Smaller bodies, too, children who had never had a chance. Admirals' warships moved through the debris, firing at anything that still showed signs of life. But the star beasts were not all dead. Many had survived, hiding in the dense center of the fleet, protected by elders who had sacrificed themselves to buy time. They huddled together, wounded and terrified, waiting for the end. "Get me close," said. Looked at her. "There is no way. Get me close now." He did. He flew the little courier ship straight into the battle zone, dodging weapons fire, weaving between the bodies of the dead. Warning alarms screamed. The hull shook with near misses, but they made it through. Opened the cargo hatch and stepped out onto the hull of the ship. She was wearing a simple emergency suit, barely enough to keep her alive in vacuum. The cold of space hit her like a hammer. She could not breathe normally. The suit's air supply was thin and harsh, but she did not need normal breath for what she was about to do. She closed her eyes and opened her mind completely. Every star beast in the system felt her presence. Every human too, though they did not understand what they were feeling. A warmth spreading through their thoughts. A voice that was not a voice, speaking in concepts deeper than words. And then began to sing. It was not a song in any human language. It was not a song in the star beast's language either. It was something older, something that existed before either species, a frequency that resonated through the fabric of space itself. She did not know how she knew it. It came from somewhere deep inside her, from the ancient gift that had finally awakened completely. The song spread through the battlefield like light. Star beasts stopped fleeing. Humans stopped firing. Everyone everywhere just stopped. They listened. They could not help but listen. Showed them everything. She showed the star beasts her memories of humanity. Her grandmother feeding travelers who had nothing. Her brother protecting injured animals. Captain choosing honor over orders. millions of humans across the galaxy who wanted peace, who had protested and fought for understanding. She showed the humans the star beast's memories, parents caring for their young, communities supporting each other through impossible hardship, elders teaching the old stories of their lost home, a species that had never started a war, that had only ever wanted to find a safe place to live. The song wove these memories together, showing how similar they were, how much both species valued love, family, community, hope, how the war had been built on a misunderstanding that could have been avoided if only someone had been able to hear. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral sat frozen, tears running down his weathered face. He saw the creatures he had killed for 50 years, and for the first time he truly saw them. He saw children dying under his weapons. He saw mothers whose only crime was trying to protect their bobbies. He gave the order to cease fire. His officers hesitated. He screamed it at them, his voice breaking. "Stop, everyone stop, by all that is holy stop." The weapons fell silent. The song faded. Collapsed on the hull of the ship, exhausted beyond words, rushed out to bring her inside. His voice filled her mind, warm and proud and full of love. But the moment of peace did not last. One of his most loyal officers, a woman named Commander, had not felt the song the same way others had. She looked at the surviving star beasts with hatred in her eyes. She looked at, small and helpless on the courier ship, and she saw the perfect target. She fired. The energy blast crossed the distance in an instant. Did not see it coming. She did not have time to react. He had hidden in the courier ship's cargo hold throughout the journey. Now he burst out through the hull, spreading his still healing wings, putting his body between and the blast. The energy hit him directly. His scales absorbed some of it, but not enough. He fell against, his body smoking, his 4 eyes flickering. "No," screamed. She caught him, held him, felt his life fading. "No, please stay with me." Every star beast in the system felt it. They had all felt the song. They had all started to believe in peace. And now they felt one of their children dying, shot while protecting the speaker who had risked everything for them. The rage that filled them was ancient and terrible. Millions of star beasts began to move towards fleet. Their scales blazed with killing light. Their minds sang with fury. They could destroy every human ship in seconds. They could end the species that had tormented them for 50 years. They looked too. She was holding, her face wet with tears, her heart broken. She could feel his mind slipping away. She could feel the rage of his people, justified and righteous and ready to explode. All she had to do was let them. Instead, she shook her head. No more death. The star beasts hesitated. Their rage burned, but they listened to her. They always listened to her. No more death, she repeated. Not for revenge, not for justice, not for anything, no more. Slowly, painfully, they pulled back their killing light. They held their rage inside. They trusted her. On his flagship, his officers. Commander was arrested on the spot, surrendered without resistance, his spirit broken by what he had seen and done. Landed the courier ship in the flagship's docking bay. Military doctors rushed to help, using techniques they had developed for star beast biology during decades of war. He survived, barely, but he survived. And when news of the battle reached the Galactic Council, when they saw what had done and how had stopped it, everything changed. The war was over. It was time to build something new. 1 year had passed since the battle. The galaxy was different now. Not perfect, not healed, but different. Changed in ways that would take generations to fully understand. The Galactic Council had created a new body called the Council of Two Voices. It had 12 members, 6 humans and 6 star beasts, working together to manage relations between the species. Was not a member. She had refused. But she served as the interpreter, the one who allowed both sides to truly understand each other. It was hard work. 50 years of war left deep wounds. There were humans who still hated the star beasts, who refused to accept that the war had been a mistake. There were star beasts who could not forgive what had been done to their families. Old grievances surfaced every day. Old pain demanded to be heard. But they talked. That was the miracle. They talked instead of fighting, argued instead of killing. It was messy and frustrating and slow, but it was better than war. It was so much better than war. The star beasts had found their new home. The nebula at the edge of the galaxy, the one filled with the radiation they needed, was officially open to them. Human ships escorted the migration fleet there, protecting them from the few rogue military units that still wanted blood. The journey took 3 months, made it with them, riding on its back through the stars. When they arrived, the star beast sang. It was the most beautiful thing had ever experienced. Millions of voices raised in harmony, echoing through the nebula, celebrating the end of their long exile. The colors in the gas clouds seemed to dance in response. Even the humans on the escort ships felt it, a joy too big for words, washing over them like warm water. The star beast children were the first to recover. Within weeks of arriving at the nebula, the sickest ones grew stronger. Their scales brightened. Their eyes glowed with health. They played in the energy currents, chasing each other through clouds of light, finally free to be children. Watched them and smiled until her face hurt. She did not stay in the nebula. She was needed too many places, doing too many things. The Council of Two Voices required her interpretation skills almost daily. Scientists wanted her help studying the star beast's abilities. Humans with the dormant gene were being identified across the galaxy, and someone had to train them. That last task was the one she found most meaningful. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, scattered through human civilization. People who had always felt different, who had strange connections with animals or plants or the spaces between thoughts. When she taught them to awaken their gift, their faces lit up with understanding. They were not broken or wrong. They were bridges just like her. She trained them carefully, teaching them everything had taught her. How to open their minds without losing themselves. How to hear without being overwhelmed. How to speak truth across the gap between species. They would carry this work forward long after she was gone. A new generation of interpreters for a new age. But even with all her duties, always came home. The farm on 4 was waiting for her every time she returned. The grain fields still needed tending. The goats still needed milking. The chickens still clucked their greeting when she entered the barn. Some things did not change, no matter how much the galaxy transformed around them. Grandmother was slowing down. She spent most of her days in her chair on the porch, watching the suns move across the sky. But her mind was still sharp, and her eyes still sparkled when came home. "The famous speaker returns," she would say, teasing. "Have you saved any worlds today?" "Just one small one," would answer. "A farm that grows the best grain in the sector." They would sit together and drink tea and talk about nothing important. The weather, the crops, the neighbors. It was ordinary and peaceful and exactly what needed. Had left 4. He was studying engineering at a university on the capital planet, designing new ships that could carry both humans and star beasts. He sent messages every week, full of technical details that barely understood and complaints about his roommate that made her laugh. He was living his dream. She had helped make that possible. Captain came by sometimes. He had resigned his military commission after the war ended. He said he needed time to think about what he had done and who he wanted to be. For 6 months, he wandered the galaxy, visiting memorials for both human and star beast dead, sitting with the grief he had never allowed himself to feel. Then he came to 4. "I do not know what to do with myself," he admitted to. They were walking through the grain field, the golden stalks brushing against their legs. "I spent my whole life fighting. I do not know how to be anything else." "You could learn to farm," suggested. He laughed, but there was something wistful in it. I would probably kill every plant I touched. Probably, but we could teach you. He stayed. At first it was just for a few days, then a few weeks. Then he stopped talking about leaving. He was terrible at farming, just as he had predicted. He overwatered the crops. He scared the goats. He once managed to break a tool just by looking at it. But he kept trying, and slowly he got better. Never left side. He was fully grown now, as large as the house where she had been born. His scales shimmered with every color imaginable, shifting in patterns that matched his moods. He was too big for the barn, so he slept outside, curled around the building like a living mountain. The locals had been terrified of him at first. Now they brought their children to see him. He let the little ones climb on his back and slide down his tail. He was infinitely patient with them, infinitely gentle. He loved children, human and star beast alike. At night would sit on his back and look up at the stars. She could feel the star beasts in the nebula, healthy and thriving. She could feel the new interpreters across the galaxy, doing the work of building understanding. She could feel the slow healing of wounds that had seemed permanent. The galaxy was not perfect. It never would be. There would always be conflict, always misunderstanding, always the temptation to solve problems with violence. But there was also connection now. There was conversation. There was the possibility of peace. That was what she had given them. Not a solution, but a possibility. One evening, grandmother called everyone together. She was very tired, her face pale, her breath shallow. The doctors had said there was nothing more they could do. Her body was simply wearing out. They gathered around her bed. Who had rushed home, who did not question his right to be there. Through the window, watched with his 4 gentle eyes. "I am proud of you," said. Her voice was weak but clear. "All of you, but especially you, you became something I never imagined." "You made me," whispered, holding her grandmother's hand. "Everything I am came from you." Smiled, "No, child, I just planted the seed, you grew yourself." She looked at each of them in turn, her eyes full of love. "Take care of each other, take care of this farm, take care of the galaxy if you must, but never forget where you came from." She died peacefully, as the twin suns set and the moons rose, and the stars came out one by one. They buried her in the field she had worked her whole life. Star beasts came from the nebula to honor her, hovering in the sky like a galaxy of their own. Humans came from across the sector, people she had fed when they were hungry, sheltered when they were lost. Did not speak at the funeral. She did not need to. Everyone there knew what grandmother had meant, what she had given to the universe through her simple kindness, her stubborn love, her impossible granddaughter. Life continued. Kept farming. She kept interpreting. She kept training new bridges between species. She got better at all of it, but she never stopped being herself. Never stopped wearing simple clothes, getting dirt under her nails, laughing at jokes and rolling her eyes at attempts to fix the irrigation system. She was still nobody special, just a farm girl from a quiet planet doing her work, living her life. But sometimes, when the sun set and the sky filled with colors, she would feel warmth against her back. She would feel the star beasts singing in the distant nebula. She would feel the countless connections stretching across the galaxy, human and alien joined together by something that had slept in their blood for generations. And she would smile. Because that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.